Barrel maturation. In this lesson, we are going to learn about what happens to wine that is aged or fermented in oak barrels. Let's imagine that we have made two wines in the very way that we have just learned. Two big tanks, one full of freshly fermented Chardonnay and one of Pinot Noir. We have wine, but it is unfinished. There are a few more steps and choices that need to be made before the wine is ready for bottling. The first is whether the wine is going to be aged in oak barrels. Have you ever wondered why winemakers age their wine in barrels? There are two main reasons. One is flavor, and the other is stability. Oak barrels can give wines some oaky and toasty aromas that add to their complexity. Because wines are added to barrels, and as they are aged, wine evaporates and the barrels need to be topped up, a little bit of oxygen gets mixed up in the wine. This little bit of oxygen does much to stabilize the wine. It deepens the color of red wine and softens the tannins and gets wine ready for bottling. To understand this better, let's take a closer look at barrels. Wooden barrels can come in many different sizes, but the most used size is just over 200 liters, or about 300 bottles of wine. The smaller the barrel, the more effect it will have on the wine, as more wine is in contact with the wood. There are also different types of wood used, but by far the most common is oak. Traditionally, oak from oak trees grown in French forests are used, but American oak is also quite popular. Different types of oak will give different flavors to the wine it is in contact with. French oak gives spicy aromas and a silky texture, while American oak gives aromas of vanilla, cream soda, and coconut. People who make barrels are called coopers, and how they make their barrels will also have an effect on how the final wine tastes. The most important part of barrel making to know about is toasting. The planks of wood used to make barrels need to be heated so that they can be bent into shape. The heating of the wood will burn the inside of the barrel. How much the wood is burnt is normally broken up into heavy, medium, and light toasts. Barrels with a heavier toast will impart flavors of spicy, toasty coffee into the wine, but will give less oak flavor and tannins to the wine because of the charred barrier between the wine and the oak. Medium toast barrels will give the wine more oak aromas and less toasty ones. And lighter toasted barrels give the most oak aroma. Finally, the age of the barrel will also make a difference. Each time a barrel is used, the amount of aromas the oak can give the wine decreases. It's like using a tea bag over and over again. Each cup of tea you try to make will get weaker and weaker. So a brand new barrel will impart far more oak flavor than a third or fourth fill barrel. Both red and white wines can be aged in barrels. Some are even fermented in the barrels. This is called barrel fermentation. As it is quite difficult to get skins and stalks in and out of barrels, red wines that are fermented in barrels are usually pressed before fermentation is complete and are then moved into barrels to finish fermentation. Fermenting wine in barrels creates richer, rounder wines with more pronounced oak flavors. When we look at varieties in detail in the next level, we'll learn about the different ways that barrel aging and fermentation affects each one. Both our Chardonnay and Pinot Noir have finished fermentation, and we have pressed the Pinot Noir and placed this young wine into barrels. There they can remain from anywhere between 6 months to 2 years. If fermentation finishes in a barrel, then there will be lees present as well. The lees is important as it gives white wines a rounder, richer texture. Winemakers will even stir up the lees in the barrel so that the lees has the maximum effect on the wine. This process is called batonnage. As the lees builds up, the wine is racked from one barrel to another, leaving the lees behind until there is no lees left. This process also means that the final wine will be a lot cleaner than when it started. Now the lees-free wines can age in oak, slowly maturing and gaining flavors and textures from the oak. The oxygen that has got into the wine from filling the barrels and racking helps to stabilize the wine. It works with all of those chemicals and odorants that you have learnt about to create a better, more rounded out wine. In the next lesson, we are going to look at the final part of the winemaking process, bottling. and what winemakers can do to prepare their wines to be bottled.